Hi, this is James Watson with Doculabs. I'd like to offer you some of our perspectives on customer communications, specifically around messaging today and what we see coming in the future. Today, most of our clients are set up to deliver three primary channels of communication: paper-based communications, emails with links to websites, so web pages. That's the third. And while appropriate for a majority of the audience, we think that's going to change. First and foremost, the introduction of text messaging or SMS messaging. Next, we see the dominance of in-application push messaging, like a lot of us get from our media sources. And the third, of course, is what you're watching today, which is video. Video communications obviously exploding. So how do organizations prepare for these new channels, these new communication paradigms? Well, we see three things that are essential with the old channels as well as with the new channels. The first is the modularity of the content, or the content architecture itself. How do the pieces fit together? When do we want to use long descriptions versus short? How do we chunk it up? Critically important is to lay that out ahead of time in light of the channel-specific paradigms associated with, for example, text. The second thing that's essential is the profile and preferences of the consumer. So the communications themselves, we need to know when we want to send text and when we want to send email and when one's redundant to another and when we need to use one because the first failed. All of that is part of the user profile. The mechanisms to collect, for example, simple email addresses and cell phone numbers in itself is a real challenge for our clients. But the preferences on when to use one versus the other does become critically important, particularly if we want to appear sophisticated. And the third, and probably the biggest in terms of what's on the horizon, is the idea of targeting and personalization. So we know that James Watson has a kid going off to college next year. We want to show him content that's appropriate for 529 deductions. That sort of information is critical, but we need to know about James Watson. We need to profile him, take his preferences, and of course, do some certain targeting to know what works and what doesn't. So these are some ideas for how organizations can address their future communications needs going forward.